Joining us now, member of the Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol, Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger of Illinois. Good morning, Congressman. Thanks for being here. Let's start there with Ginny Thomas. Can you give us the latest? What is the committee doing to compel her to testify?
Yeah, I mean, right now we always go through this process where we have negotiations with counsel. We'd far prefer somebody to come in voluntarily. It's always better for the conversation. We never want anything to start off on kind of a confrontation or I guess a hostile position. But she had made it clear, as you mentioned in the opening there, that she was eager to come talk to us, and now all of a sudden doesn't seem so eager. You know, this started out a year ago when we began to see some kind of evidence of her involvement as just kind of intriguing in terms of who she's talked to, but her role has only grown as we've uncovered things, as you've mentioned and you laid out there. And so if we need to, we will subpoena her and get the information. We're not out to get anybody. We're out to get information and get that information to the American people.
So how much time will you give her to voluntarily come? At what point do you decide enough is enough and it's time for a subpoena?
Yeah, we've got, look, our counsels that work for us, they're professionals. They know what that kind of process is. They know when they're being strung along or when it's, legitimate negotiations. And they've done a good job of knowing when it's time to move on a subpoena. So, look, we understand that we need this information as soon as we can. We understand that we've been at this investigation for about a year now, and we're getting more and more information in. So when that time is right, we'll do it. And but again, we hope it's voluntary. We just want to talk to her. And she made it clear through the media that she was eager to do that.
So beyond Ginny Thomas, who else are you hoping to speak to here in the weeks ahead? The committee seems to be taking a little bit of a pause for August, but talk of another hearing in September. Give us your wish list.
Well, I mean, from what we can talk about publicly, what's out there publicly, we still need some information from the Secret Service, right? We have this whole question of what happened to these text messages. Maybe nefarious, maybe not. We just don't know. We wonder why we were told initially we were going to get everything, and then here's only one text message. So we want answers to that. We heard through anonymous sources in the media that the Secret Service agents, present when Cassidy Hutchinson talked about the heated argument in the limo, the president's beast, that they were eager to talk to us. We haven't been able to talk to them yet either. We have our doors wide open. They just have to do it under oath. So that on top of, again, we just have a lot of people coming forward with pieces of the puzzle, maybe pieces of information. Maybe Cassidy Hutchinson or Sarah Matthews inspired them. And so we're going to work on beginning to write our report, but keep this investigation wide open and getting more and more information.
Congressman, just to follow up on what you said about the Secret Service agents in the vehicle, and you're referring to the former Deputy Chief of Staff for Operations, Tony Ornato, in their testimony, you could easily subpoena them. You said that last week, you believe it was a hard no, that they weren't cooperating, yet the Secret Service head said that they were fully cooperating and released a statement. How do you resolve that discrepancy?
Look, there's a lot of kind of details when it comes to how do we compel testimony from the Secret Service. Obviously, Secret Service has a very unique job, but when particularly through anonymous sources, the Secret Service is saying they'll come in and push back against Cassidy Hutchinson. And then, of course, we put forward witnesses that actually corroborate what Cassidy said. And by the way, Cassidy was just talking about what she had heard in the first place. We have said, look, come on in and testify. They haven't as of yet. I can't square the box of some people saying, well, we're saying we're cooperating, we're not. I just know they haven't been in yet. So we welcome them in any moment, but they have to do it under oath because we don't take information through anonymous sources. We take it under oath.
Well, and both Secret Service agents have testified under oath in video testimony already. And do you think that the speculation on your part is helpful that they, unless you can share with us what the deliberations actually are, is this kind of speculation helpful just because there is so much disinformation out there about what's really happening?
No, I agree with you on that. I think there is a ton of disinformation. But the problem here is, and this is kind of Donald Trump's and his company's MO, they will take a very credible witness and they'll find a piece of the story they think they can discredit. In this case with Cassidy, she had said she had heard something that happened, and they had tried to discredit her through that, and in fact used anonymous sources quoting, so to speak, these Secret Service members. And now we're pushing back, and there's no answer to that. I think that is important when you try to impeach the credibility of a witness, not to mention the vast amount of misinformation going around on the internet, including still this idea of Ray Epps being some FBI informant and everything else. So yes, on the one hand, you don't want to feed disinformation. On the other hand, you have to sometimes look and say, here is information that is actually being used to widely discredit things. It's all BS to widely discredit things in a large portion of the American people, and you do have to push back on that.
Congressman Kinzinger, this is Eddie Glaude. I want to pan out just for a quick second. The committee has done an amazing job in terms of showing the American public the through line, narrating the complicated pieces, the moving parts of what happened on January 6th. What would it mean for American democracy if Donald Trump is not prosecuted by the DOJ?
Look, I mean, my opinion, I can't do the DOJ's job as a not lawyer. There's all kinds of threshold questions. But my belief is this: we never want to get to a position in a country where we prosecute last administrations, because that's what failed republics, failed democracies do. But if a failed coup and an obvious coup attempt and a president that didn't just choose not to act but willfully watched to see where the mob would go for 3 hours on January 6th, if he is not held accountable through law, I actually fear that that is a far worse precedent than anything else. I think it is essential for DOJ to at least run all the way up all the information they can, make the determination if they can and should indict. But I got to tell you, if we just wash this under the rug and say, for the sake of the country, let's put this aside, there is going to be somebody else, whether it's Donald Trump in 2024 or somebody else somewhere down the line, that recognizes that as the floor of their behavior and pushes even more. And we can't survive that.
So, Congressman, one of the more compelling figures we heard from on Thursday was White House counsel Pat Cipollone, who, was able to invoke some executive privilege for some conversations. Give us the latest in terms of how the committee aims to work around some of that claim to get even more from such an important figure in this probe.
Yeah, we had a very long interview with him, 8 hours. I think what's been out there publicly is obviously just a fraction of that. There's more information. There's stuff that corroborates maybe parts of other hearings we've already had. And so if we need to talk to him again, I'm sure we'll ask. But we had a very thorough investigation. And now, we continue to want to hear from other people that may know more. But I think what's obvious here is I think we've put a lot of pieces together with a lot of evidence. Our job in Congress is to come forward with recommendations to show the American people the truth. Particularly as a Republican, I want to tell other Republicans that you've been abused and lied to by your leaders that know the truth but don't have the courtesy to tell you the truth because they'd actually rather abuse you to stay in power. That's what I think is important. It's now up to DOJ to fill in all those pieces. The fact that we have brought so much information forward that they didn't know, I am curious, what were they doing for the last year and a half? But now that it does appear that there is some movement, good. At least run this thing as far as you can, see what happens.
So, Congressman, finally, you just mentioned that the democracy itself would be in jeopardy were Trump not to be potentially prosecuted. But it seems like most members of your party are still standing with them. The poll numbers have dipped just a little, and that we have seen a few voices like Mike Pence lately say they're going to run for president, it seems like, even if he does. But the vast majority of the GOP still wants to follow or seems willing to follow Donald Trump. What is your take on that, the state right now of the Republican Party, that can be the case despite everything the hearings have laid out over the past few months?
Yeah, the state of the party is a disaster. I mean, look, there are anecdotal. I have people that tell me, hey, my dad was addicted to Fox News, never thought anything wrong with Donald Trump. Now he hates him because of these hearings. I hear anecdotal things like that. There are movements that are occurring, and I think in the medium, and particularly in the long term, Donald Trump will be persona non grata in this country because of this. But in the short term, it takes leaders. I mean, look, I always thought when you got elected to Congress, this is my naivety as a kid, that you were coming out here to lead. And what I have learned is leadership is exceedingly rare in this job, and people are just more interested in maintaining the title and getting reelected. Look, you have Republicans that only trust Republican leaders, and when there's only 2 Republican leaders that are currently elected, myself, Liz, maybe Mitt Romney and a few others that are telling you the truth, it's easy to demonize us. We're not the ones lying to you, fellow Republican voters. It's the people that are too scared to tell you the truth. That's a choice you have to make. All I can do is say truth, and I'll do that any day of the week.
Well, we certainly appreciate your candor. Member of the January 6th Select Committee, Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger.